Hello, everybody. I am going to start a series of lectures of different classes, and today my topic is international politics, which is of BA final. After this recording in English, I will also record in Hindi, right? So, the first topic today is international politics and its scope, BA final. Um, Now, what is the difference between international relations and international politics? Well, international relations is which just deals with the relationship among different states: India, China, Pakistan, China, USA, China, USA, Mexico, etc. On the other hand, international politics is a very big field. It of course talks about relations between states, but it also talks of a lot of other things which we will just discuss, right? And that is what it is, the scope. But for a short answer, you should be prepared for the difference between international politics and international relations, right? Now, coming to the scope, which is going to be very interesting, right? As I just told you, what does international politics deals with? It talks, we'll take about 20 points. It talks about relationship between different countries. In political science, we don't use the word countries, we use the word state, right? So India, Pakistan are states. And for your states, which we call in common words, that is common language, Punjab, Telangana, we call units. So sometimes I'll be using the word country and state so that you are comfortable, right? But as students of political science, you should know that India, Pakistan, USA, China are states. So first of all, in international politics, what do we study? Relationship between different countries, good, bad. We have to study all of them. If they are good, we have to keep them good. If they are bad, as between India and Pakistan, we have to find places, areas where we can improve the relationship, because a world full of strife is not good for anybody, right? You waste a lot of men, money, and material. Now, what is very, very important as a scope of international politics is study of trade. In fact, I think it is trade which drives everything. China is not the Western kind of democracy. It is a communist giant, but and USA is it takes pride on calling itself the world's oldest democracy. India is the world's largest democracy, right? But still, America has given the most favored nation status to China. Why? Cheap consumer goods from China. China likes America. Why? Because the world's biggest market. So it is trade which drives relationship, and you have to study the trade between different countries, the different agreements signed between different countries. And with Mr. Modi's trip to more than 40 countries, you might have realized that trade is what drives the world, right? The MNCs is the one who want markets in every country. Now, the next point, can the scope of international politics be completed if we don't study the role of organizations? Organizations like SAARC, South Asian Association of Regional Cooperation, NAM, Non-Aligned Movement, ASEAN, Association of Southeast Asian Nations, European Union, G20, G5, G8, G70, then OIC, Organization of Islamic Countries, OPEC, petroleum exporting countries. So why do countries come together in a group? Why is that group successful? What is the aim of that group? And how can that group help the states to fight, to bargain for better things? How can they help each other to further their trade matters, solve disputes? And then study of developed and developing countries. Once upon a time, in 1940s, 50s, we were underdeveloped countries. Now India has joined the club of developing countries. And USA, France, they are the developed countries, developed states. Now, in recent past, instead of developed countries, we call such countries, states at the center, and everybody wants to go. The gravity is towards the center, so we are at the periphery, right? African countries are further on at the periphery. So periphery means the edges. So everybody wants to go to the center. So how we are trying to go into the center? What all are we doing? India wants a permanent seat in the Security Council. We help nations wherever we have to, just so that we can qualify to have a permanent seat in the Security Council, to have goodwill, and of course, better trade relations, etc. Then the next point is very, very important: study of human rights, their violation. What are human rights, first of all, right? Rights which you and I need to have a dignified life, to have a life of respect, to lead a life which distinguishes us from the animals. Of course, animal rights are also very important now, because we all make up one friendly planet. Study of human rights. December 10th is celebrated as the Human Rights Day every day, and there's an international body which looks after the human rights and takes a call if they are being violated. That is the Amnesty International. So human rights, their violation, why they are violated, and minimum damage should be done to the individual. Minimum violations should take place. When we talk about human rights, why they're important? Because some human rights, some rights are guaranteed by every constitution. They are put in a written form in the constitution. They have to be safeguarded, and they are known as the fundamental rights. There are thousands of rights. We need those rights to lead a dignified life. Now, the next point is very important when it comes, and they're new, these are the new points: study of environment, right? Now, environment is very important. Pure air, clean water to drink are very, very important. Why? Because they're directly connected to your right to life. Only when you have these rights can you your right to life can be guaranteed. So, who hasn't heard about Greta Thunberg from Sweden, who rose uh, who rose to speak on behalf of the environment? We are all worried about the cutting of the rainforest, the Amazon forest. We are all affected by flash floods which take place, melting of glaciers, species are being endangered. Then the various agreements which are being signed to safeguard environment. Then study of terrorism. Terrorism knows no boundaries. Terrorism knows no love, it knows only hatred. Why terrorism in the world? What are the causes? What is the relationship between terrorism, poverty, unemployment, religion, faith? No country has saved itself from terrorism. The remotest countries, Sri Lanka, India, America, Pakistan, every country has become a victim of terrorism. Then why is terrorism flourishing? Who are the people who are encouraging terrorism? What are the reasons, and how should we eliminate those reasons? Then study of international law. Now, we've all read that from our boundary, from the coastline, 12 nautical miles water belongs to the nation whose boundaries are there. But they are international waters. There is space, or there are conflicts between different countries. Then, if you have a conflict, you go to the court in your state. If two states have a problem, they go to the Supreme Court of the country. But if two states have a problem, then where do they go? How do they solve that matter? How does mediation take place? That's international law, which is very vast, very useful, because it maintains and breaks relationship between different countries. Then study of conflicts. Korea, problem between North Korea and South Korea, India and Pakistan, India and China, problem in Afghanistan, Vietnam in the past, so many African countries, Congo. Uh, the conflict is going on in nearly every part of the world. Israel and Palestinian uh, conflicts. We are, as I often tell my class, we are living in the third world war. Where we go about our daily lives, but there is a loss of men, money, and material. So, how do we stop these conflicts? Uh, there are people who are working all the time to maintain peace in the world. Then arms race. We want hospitals, we want schools, we want colleges. And what are our governments doing all across the world? They are buying more and more weapons. They are going nuclear. Now, they're also right. Why? Because they say we have to defend you. You have to prepare for war in times of peace. Who's right and who's wrong? So that is why we are talking about disarmament. That let us reduce expenditure on weapons, right? And let us concentrate more on building a welfare state, which each government promises to its people, and it's written there in the Indian Constitution also under directive principles of state policy. So that is why we talk about disarmament. Disarmament means stop buying weapons. There should be less stockpiling of weapons. It might be ordinary weapons or nuclear weapons, right? And we have seen what First World War and Second World War have done to the world. And the nuclear arms race is a mad race. Mad race means capital MAD, mutually assured destruction. Both these sides, whoever uses the nuclear weapons, it's a guarantee that mutually it's assured that they will be destroyed, both, right? Now, study of Cold War and New Cold War, right? I'll be doing this in the successive Cold War chapter. But what was Cold War? Cold War was a war between two teams, two parties, two blocks, one led by USA and the other by USSR. So it was a clash of ideologies. USA promoting liberalism, and USSR, which is now Russia, it broke down into 15 republics, propagating communism, right? So, Cold War, the center was Europe, and the new Cold War. Cold War finished, and again the tensions escalated. That is the new Cold War, which was very dangerous for us. Why? Because the center was Asia. We'll come to it later in the successive chapters. Now, another point which has been added to the scope of international politics, that is study of refugees and displaced people. Everybody has heard about the boat people who grow up in boats. They have their schools, markets on the boats. They have a life on the boats, and no country is ready to take them, right? But the new population which is being displaced is because of water. This century is going to be all about water wars. Maximum displacement is being talked about because of water. People will move from their homes, leaving their homes because of lack of water. 21 cities in India have already been given the red signal that they'll have shortage of water. Now, we have more cases. You have the cases of Palestinians. You have people migrating from Syria because of the bombings. And in India, you have the Kashmiri Pandits who are called the internally displaced people. So, study of refugees, how they have to be settled, what are their problems, what anguish they are going through, and study of ideologies. You know what is an ideology? Or ideology is a body of thought. Marxism, liberalism, Gandhism, feminism. These are ideologies. Every country picks up an ideology, maybe more than one ideology, and sets up its political system according to that ideology. So ideologies are very important. Remember, in the point which we just did, the ideologies had the power to divide the world into two blocks, one led by USA and one led by USSR. And then study of the emerging world order. What is the world coming to? The coronavirus. It has it has it has given us new points to think about. You don't need to go to a war to sit in your houses. You can be made to sit in your houses because of a virus. Our generation had grown up reading about biological weapons. We just have heard about Agent Orange and napalm bomb being used in Vietnam. We are now actually seeing biological war. So, what is the world coming to? So we were all China, buying goods from China. Suddenly we say, make in India. We're going to boycott Chinese goods. So, what is the emerging world order? Are we going more towards environment, rethinking our values? And international politics talks about protecting national interests, protecting your own interest vis a vis the interest of your neighbors. And for this, what do you have to study? Your next point, study of national power. You have to become a national power. And there are many elements of national power. You have an educated population, an innovative population, hardworking population. You should have resources. You should have the technology to crack those resources, utilize them. You should have an armed forces. Psychologically, you should be very, very strong. You should have a very good leaders. You should have a strong government, but which respects the people, strong in times of emergency. There are many elements of national power. Japan is a good example of psychological power. They are very sound here. For them, the country is all in all. So this, I've just covered about 20 points, but they are more than enough at this stage to make you write a good answer. So, what is international politics? International politics is that body of knowledge which talks about maintaining and breaking relations with other countries. It talks about global politics. Anything happening in any part of the world now, because we're living in a global village, has the capacity to influence people anywhere in the farthest corner of the world. So, studying international politics is very, very important. Why? Because we are global citizens now. What happens in Ethiopia or what happens in Mexico is sure enough to touch our lives negatively or positively. Right. So, this is the scope of international politics. I hope you have understood it. Thank you.